I'm Hudson, and welcome to the very first video here in my garage. If you're just as sick of boring plastic EVs as I am, and you miss the raw smell of gasoline, you've come to the right place. We've got a packed show today. We're going to break down what the hell they did to the new 2026 Ford Mustang. Then, we're checking out the Brits and their ultra-spec Range Rover, which uses artificial intelligence to literally tickle your heels to the beat of a jazz track. After that, we're celebrating Cadillac, who just crashed the Formula One party and dropped a wicked, manual-only super sedan. We'll look at how reality slapped Honda with a brutal $9 billion reality check for their electric fantasies. And finally, we'll tip our caps to BMW for unleashing what might just be the lightest, most visceral M3 of this entire generation. Look, boys, it's gonna be a wild ride. Buckle up. Let's get into it. Stop what you're doing and listen to this. The internal combustion engine just got a stay of execution. While every other brand is building vacuum cleaners, Ford just doubled down on the V8. They're not just keeping the Mustang alive, they're making it louder than ever. Is it a final masterpiece or a desperate scream for help? Let's find out. You know what's wrong with modern cars today? They've become too damn polite. They're selling us these electric kettles on wheels that fake the engine roar through speakers. Seriously? Artificial sound for an artificial world. It's pathetic. Hey guys, Hudson here. While I'm over here fighting a seized bolt on this old V8, Ford just dropped a massive pile of news about the 2026 Mustang. So, let's figure it out. Is there still a soul left in this legend? Or is it time to say goodbye to the era of real iron? Welcome to the Hudson's Garage. Let's get into it. Just listen to that sound. That's the 5-liter Coyote V8. Base model gives you 480 horses. And with the active exhaust, it's a full 486. When a beast like this flies down the highway, Judy can hear it from the next town over while she's baking her apple strudel. And she doesn't need a smartphone to know that's a V8 coming. But today, you can drive past someone in an EV and they won't even turn their head until you roll over their damn foot. Here's the official word from Dearborn. For 2026, Ford is expanding the lineup with a focus on personalization. They've officially confirmed the return of the 60-year anniversary package and the all-new FX Performance Pack. We're talking Brembo brakes as standard on the GT, a revised intake system, and get this, a factory-backed drift brake. Ford says they want to bridge the gap between digital tech and analog feel. Now for the facts. For 2026, Ford decided to lean into the nostalgia. They've launched the FX package. It's a big, fat nod to the 80s. Stark white wheels, retro badges. And for those who miss the old days, there's the TLD Signature Edition. Bronze wheels, custom graphics. It looks sharp, I'll give them that. But under the hood, a 2.3-liter EcoBoost, 315 horsepower. Look, it's fine for mowing the lawn, but we're here for the heavy metal, right? But it's not all good news. Prices are creeping up. Again.
What?
A basic GT will set you back at least $48,000. And inside, man, there's a 13-inch display. Ford calls it a digital cockpit. I call it an iPad on wheels. At least they kept the remote rev feature. You can stand in the parking lot and rev it from the key fob just to scare some hipsters holding their lattes. But if you're a total maniac, Ford built the Mustang GTD, 815 horsepower, titanium exhaust. You can literally see the rear suspension through a window where the trunk should be. It costs $325,000. For that kind of money, Judy shouldn't just be baking strudel. She should be personally rebuilding your transmission. You see, Ford is playing a dangerous game here. They're giving us the tech we hate, like those massive screens, just so they can afford to keep building the engines we love. It's a trade-off. They know that if they don't sell the iPad experience to the kids, they won't have the budget to forge those V8 pistons for us old-school guys. It's a bitter pill to swallow. But at least it's a pill that comes with 480 horsepower. My verdict? As long as Ford keeps dropping V8s and giving us a manual gearbox, there's hope. This is a car for people with gasoline in their veins. And Judy will still hear us coming from miles away. If you got the chance, grab a piece of this metal before they turn it into a silent vacuum cleaner. What do you think? Is the 2026 Mustang still the one? Or has Ford lost its way? Drop a comment below. I read them all while the WD-40 soaks in. Subscribe to The Garage. We keep it real here. All right, boys, let's keep this rolling. While we've been here talking about honest cast iron, the smell of gasoline, and why we love good old American grit, the Brits over at Land Rover decided that regular luxury just wasn't fancy enough. Buckle up, because we're breaking down something called the Range Rover SV Ultra. And if you thought Ultra stood for better off-road capability or a bigger fuel tank, you don't know the British. See, for these guys, a regular Range Rover SV is now basically a car for a suburban soccer mom. They needed an Ultra version. They painted it in a unique silver called Titan. They say it's infused with aluminum particles to create a liquid metal effect. Honestly, it looks like the T-1000 Terminator decided to retire and turn into an SUV. And just in case you don't confuse it with your neighbor's car, they added trim in a shade called Satin Atlas. That's platinum, boys. Platinum accents on the body. When I read that, I almost hit myself in the forehead with a 19mm wrench. And the cherry on top? 23-inch wheels with special center caps. I just hope they can be unscrewed without a royal decree from London. Let's step inside. Forget the smell of old leather and oil. Here we've got orchid and cinder interior. Sounds like cocktail names on a yacht, but it's actually Ultra Fabrics faux leather. Yep, Ultra Luxury is now made of synthetic leather, but with laser embossing. Sustainability, you know. But here's the real kicker, the controls. The knobs on the console and the gear selector are made of white ceramic. Guys, they put grandma's fine china in a car. Imagine hitting a pothole somewhere outside of Detroit and having your gear shifter shatter in your hand. And the trim, it's palm rattan veneer. Rattan. That's the stuff they use to make patio furniture and laundry baskets. So you're sitting in a $500,000 truck surrounded by a laundry hamper. Genius. Truly genius. Now hold on tight. This is the main feature. The audio system. They ripped out regular speakers and put in 21 electrostatic emitters. The membrane is 1 millimeter thick. They say it's 90% lighter than normal speakers. I guess they didn't want the car to get tired carrying an extra 7 ounces of sound. But wait, it gets weirder. These panels are not just in the doors, they're in the seats and even in the floor. They've got special transducers controlled by artificial intelligence. I'm not kidding. The system transmits musical pulsation. The car literally kicks you in the back and the heels to the beat of a jazz track. Look, Hudson knows a thing or two about vibration. Everything in my garage rattles when I fire up my V8. But I don't need an AI for that. I just need a straight pipe. But the Brits promise that even without music, these things will help you relax or energize. You know what we call that back in the shop? A massage chair on steroids. Under the hood, you get either a hybrid with 550 horsepower or the good old 4.4-liter V8 from BMW with 615 horses. At least they kept something masculine in there, thanks to the Germans. Though the Brits are already whispering about an all-electric version. A rolling vacuum cleaner with ceramic buttons. We'll see about that. And now, the sweetest part. They won't tell you the price. Exclusive, you see. But even if you have a few $100,000 burning a hole in your pocket, you can't just walk in and buy this Range Rover. You need a special invitation. With the Mustang, you're paying for seconds on the Nürburgring. With this, you're paying for an AI to massage your heels with a platinum slipper. My verdict? If you need to drive, get the Mustang. If you need a car that pretends to be a porcelain vase and tickles your feet, wait for your invitation from the Brits. Me? I'm gonna go check the oil in my old bird. There's no electronics in there but the radio, and I barely turn it on anyway. The sound of the engine is better than any Ultra system. Catch you in the next part. Don't go anywhere. All right, boys. Let's talk about some real victory. You heard the news? General Motors and Cadillac, they finally did it. They kicked the door down and stormed into Formula One. Those highbrow suits in Europe, they tried to block them. They tried to play keep away like a bunch of schoolboys. But Cadillac just said, "Move over, Pops. We're coming through." And to celebrate? Oh, they didn't just pop some cheap champagne. They built a freaking monster. Meet the Cadillac CT5V Blackwing F1 Collector Series. Yeah, the name is a total mouthful. But man, does it back it up. They took the already insane Blackwing and handed it over to the wizards at GM Motorsports. You know, the guys who actually know how to make things scream on a track. They messed with the supercharger on that 6.2-liter V8. The power jumped from 677 horses to 695. And the torque? A massive 911 Newton meters. They even put a fancy F1 logo on the engine cover. It's like a warning label for anyone brave enough to even look under the hood. Now, here's the best part. Pay attention, boys. For the regular Blackwing, you can get a 10-speed automatic. Fine, whatever. But for this F1 special, it's a 6-speed manual from Tremec. Only. No automatic allowed. Cadillac is basically saying, if you can't shift your own gears, you don't deserve this car. God, I love it. In 2026, when everyone is moving to boring electric appliances, Cadillac hands you a stick shift and nearly 700 horses to the rear wheels. That's not just a car, folks. That's American poetry right there. To keep all that muscle on the tarmac, they threw in the precision package, We're talking carbon ceramic brakes, sticky Michelin rubber, and a suspension tuned specifically to eat racetracks for breakfast. And the look? It's completely murdered out. Black paint, black wheels. Even the brake calipers are gray so they don't ruin the mood. It looks like something a stealth fighter pilot would drive to a funeral. Dark, mean, beautiful. Now, here's the catch. They are only building 26 of these. Why 26? Who knows? Maybe that's how many people at the FIA finally stopped crying and let them in. They haven't announced the price yet, but considering the base Blackwing starts at $99,000, you can bet this collector's piece will cost a pretty penny. But you know what? For the fastest, meanest Cadillac ever made, a car that marks the moment America officially invaded the F1 grid, it's worth every single cent. Between a vibrating British SUV and a 6-speed Cadillac that spits fire, I think we all know which one gets a spot in Hudson's garage. Stick around, folks. We've got more ground to cover. All right, folks. Sit down. Grab a coffee or something stronger, because we need to talk about Honda. You know Honda. The guys who gave us the legendary NSX, the high-revving S2000. The company that basically built its reputation on engineering excellence. Well, the fiscal year 2025 just ended, and it was a disaster. A total, unmitigated train wreck. For the first time since they hit the stock market in 1957, that's nearly 70 years, boys, Honda recorded a yearly loss. We're talking 414 billion yen. That's about $2.63 billion in the red. To put that in perspective, just a year before, they were sitting on a profit of $7.5 billion. They didn't just lose money. They fell off a freaking cliff. So what happened? Did people stop buying Civics? No. It was the electric dream. Honda went all in on a strategy that crashed harder than a rookie at a track day. They had this grand plan for North America, a whole lineup of original EVs. They had the Honda Zero SUV, the Saloon, a reborn Acura RSX as a crossover. Yeah, using that legendary name for an electric SUV. Sacrilege. And that Afeela thing they were building with Sony. But guess what? The market woke up. People in the States looked at those price tags and those charging cables and said, "No thanks, I'll keep my gas tank." Honda had to kill most of those projects at the very last stage of development. They had to write off 1.45 trillion yen. That's $9 billion, folks, just flushed down the toilet. Poof, gone. They even froze an $11 billion battery plant in Canada. $9 billion could have developed the greatest V8 the world has ever seen. And instead, it's just a footnote in a corporate loss report. That here is the "I told you so" moment. To save their skins, Honda is doing something I actually love. They've decided to extend the life of their old internal combustion models. The Accord, the HR-V, the Acura Integra, the MDX, they aren't going anywhere. They realize these old fuel-burning veterans are the only things keeping the lights on. They tried to rush us into the future, and now they're crawling back to the combustion engine like a repentant sinner. Remember when they said that by 2030, 20% of sales would be EVs, and by 2040, they'd be 100% electric or hydrogen? Forget it. They basically tossed those goals into the shredder. Now they're pivoting to next-gen hybrids. They want to make them 30% cheaper to build and 10% more efficient. They want to cut development time in half. They're finally focusing on what people actually want to buy. Cars that don't leave you stranded when the grid goes down. Honda says they'll drop at least 15 new hybrid models by 2030. And get this, they showed off 2 prototypes for the US. The first one? A big, boxy, angular, fastback sedan with off-road trim. The press thinks it's the next Accord. It looks mean. It looks tough. It looks like it actually has a soul. The second is a massive Acura SUV with X-shaped taillights. They're even retooling their U.S. factories to build these gas-electric beauties. Even the joint battery venture with LG, they're pivoting that to make hybrid batteries now. Now, they aren't totally quitting EVs. They'll still do electric K cars in Japan like the N-Box because, well, it's Japan. And they're betting big on India with a compact electric crossover. But the core, the heart of the business, it's back to the engine, boys. Honda is throwing $39.5 billion at this anti-crisis plan over the next 3 years. But look at the breakdown. $28 billion for new gas and hybrid models, $6 billion for IT, and only $5 billion for EVs. They finally found the volume knob for common sense and turned it way up. They're promising to return to profit, about $3 billion this year, and they want to hit a record $8.8 billion by 2029. They're betting their entire future on the fact that we still want a piston moving up and down in a cylinder. You know, I've spent my life around engines. I've seen trends come and go. But this is a massive reality check for the whole industry. Honda almost broke itself trying to be something it's not. They forgot that we don't just want transportation appliances. We want cars that feel alive. I'm glad they're keeping the Accord and the Integra around. I'm glad they're putting billions back into combustion technology. Maybe, just maybe, there's hope for the future of the petrolhead after all. But hey, that's just my 2 cents from the garage. I want to hear from you. What do you think of Honda's U-turn? Are they being smart by doubling down on hybrids, or is it too little, too late? Should they have stuck to their pure EV guns, or are you happy to see the Accord live another day? Drop a comment below. I read every single one of them, and honestly, your insights are what keep this channel's gears turning. Let's get a real conversation going. What's the future of Honda in your eyes? All right, boys. Step away from the workbenches and listen to what I've got to say. Look, there are days when I honestly think this world has completely lost its damn mind with all these electric batteries and self-driving appliances. But then the bad boys over at BMW's M division come along and prove they still have a pulse and some serious balls. The current M3 sedan, the G80 generation, the one that's been tearing up our roads since 2020, is slowly packing its bags. Its career is coming to an end. It's time to retire. And the Bavarians decided to give it a send-off that will give any right-minded, gas-breathing human absolute goosebumps. They've built a special edition exclusively for the North American market. Meet the BMW M3 CS Handschalter. Handschalter, boys. In German, that literally means manual shift. A stick shift. That beautiful, honest piece of mechanical metal that American purists absolutely worship. And this isn't just some cheap, stripped-down base model for budget buyers. This is a track-ready, hardcore, fire-breathing CS. But of course, in 2026, if you want the pleasure of rowing your own gears, you gotta pay the price. And the Germans had to make some very serious mechanical compromises here. See, the standard M3 CS is a wicked all-wheel drive monster with a lightning-fast automatic. Under the hood, it's packing a twin-turbo 3.0-liter inline-six, pushing an insane 550 horsepower and 650 newton-meters of torque. A total beast. But what do we get in the Handschalter version? Basically, the engine from the base M3. The drive? Strictly rear-wheel drive. The gearbox? A 6-speed manual. And the output? We get only 480 horses and 550 newton-meters. That's almost 70 fewer horses, boys. And you know who's to blame? Not the EPA, not the environmentalists, and not the marketing department. It's the actual manual gearbox itself, the old ZFS 653. This old girl literally cannot physically hook up to an all-wheel drive system, and it will straight up explode into pieces if you try to dump all 550 horsepower through it. But you know what I have to say to that? Who cares? Seriously, who gives a damn about those 70 horses? Because what you get in return is pure, unadulterated, raw control over the machine, not some digital video game simulator on wheels. Besides, everywhere else this thing is still a thoroughbred angry CS. The Germans did not skimp on the carbon fiber. They used carbon fiber reinforced plastic for basically everything they could lay their hands on. The roof, the hood, the mirror caps, the air intakes, the spoiler, the massive rear diffuser, and the front splitter. Heck, they even put it on the inside. The frames of the front bucket seats and the entire center console cover. Pure carbon. And if you check the box for those optional carbon ceramic brakes, this beast becomes the lightest M3 of the entire generation. It weighs just 3,680 pounds, or 1,670 kilograms for my metric folks. That is 77 pounds lighter than the base manual sedan. And don't you dare think it's slow. 0 to 60 miles per hour takes just 4.1 seconds. And the top speed? 180 miles per hour. On a manual, boys. Just picture yourself slamming gears at that speed. But the best part here isn't the numbers on a straight line. This thing promises to be the most engaging, visceral driver's car BMW has made in a decade. They completely retuned the suspension and steering, and they took the dampers and springs straight off the hardcore M4 CSL track monster. The Germans swear that even with the standard power output, the engine responds to the throttle like you just injected pure adrenaline straight into its fuel lines. Now, let's talk about numbers. BMW is openly saying that this production run will be strictly limited, but the exact total, of course, they're keeping it a secret to drive up demand. Production kicks off in July of this year, but orders are already open for Americans and Canadians right now. So how much is this one-way ticket to mechanical heaven gonna cost you? Better hold on to your wallets. In the U.S., the Handschalter starts at $107,000. For perspective, the base M3 on a manual costs $79,000. The top-tier all-wheel drive automatic CS is almost $119,000. So the manual CS splits the difference right down the middle. You are paying over $100,000 for a car that is technically weaker than its automatic sister. The marketing executives are probably crying themselves to sleep over this. But the petrolheads are lining up down the block because they get it. They know this is the grand final. There won't be any more cars like this. This is the swan song of the analog era. You know, boys, I look at this Handschalter, and then I look at that ridiculous British SUV with the vibrating floor and the AI toe massages we talked about earlier, and it makes me breathe a little easier. As long as they're still building track-focused sedans with manual gearboxes in Munich, and as long as Cadillac is shoving 3 pedals into a roaring Blackwing in Detroit, our future isn't dead yet. Sure, on paper, this car loses the numbers game. A computer dual clutch will shift faster. An automatic will launch harder. But a robot will never give you that feeling. That soul-stirring moment when you, with your own right hand, slam third gear right at the 7,000 RPM red line. But hey, I want to know what you think. Boys, drop a comment below. Would you shell out $107,000 for a detuned but pure, honest M3 on a manual? Or in 2026, is it just plain stupid to turn down all-wheel drive and 50 extra horses just for nostalgia? What matters more to you in a high-performance machine? Perfect track times or the raw emotion of the drive? You know the drill. I read every single comment, and this garage is strictly for the people who actually have gasoline in their veins. Let's get a real conversation going and stir up some debate over this Bavarian gift. I'm Hudson. This is my garage. Don't forget to smash that like button and share this with the rest of the car maniacs out there. See you in the comments, and keep those engines revving.